Sabet is one of 7 leaders of the Baha'i faith in Iran who were all arrested in 2008 and locked up in the notorious Evin prison. Each is serving 20 years for crimes against the Islamic Republic, although none of the charges is on speaking terms with the concept of truth. And I mean this quite literally, since a variety of legal categories have been invoked to refer to a single overriding offence, the offence of heresy. Probably the only individual charge that would stick in an axiological tribunal is one that none of us could dodge, and that's the taint of corruption on earth. The Baha'i faith revolves around the concept of unity, the unity of God, the unity that holds together all religions, and, most emphatically, the unity of all human beings. It celebrates diversity and rejects prejudice and discrimination on any basis, whether on the basis of religion, or of nationality, or of ethnicity, or of gender, or of class. In the Islamic Republic, it is up against its universal opposite, an utterly irreconcilable counterforce. In Evin prison, the prisoners are separated from the warders, who are also torturers and executioners. The political prisoners are separated from the common criminals. The men are separated from the women. Mahvash Sabet is reported to be sharing a small cell with one other woman, a cell with 2 small windows with no glass, just metal covers, and no bedding apart from blankets, no mattresses, no pillows. For me to attempt to write directly about her situation would be at best a misrepresentation, and possibly simply grotesque. What I can do is use probably the only resource that she and I have in common, which is the resource of the imagination. Sabet's prison poems offer reflections on her life in prison, obviously, but they hold these in tension with the dream of another time and another place, a time and place of growth and fulfillment. I don't share her faith, but I do recognize the value of that tension, which is why I've written a set of prison dreams. Of course, they're in tension with nightmare, and they respond to the imagery and the apprehensions of Sabet's writing, but projecting a different European, if I can still use that word, a European vision, which is therefore circumstantially very different in feel. I've written too many to read out, so I'm just going to read a few of the shorter prose pieces and one poem. Number 2. She thought of her house on a clear morning, glittering in the sunshine. The wet mud began to seep into the covering of snow, tightening to ice. She kept the other image down, the clouded water streaming into the bath. On the crown of the slope was a building darker still. Some activity was taking place, although she could barely hear it. The mist was deadening the sound. Her clothes were soaked. The man ahead of her faltered, then stopped at once. She could see him turning round. Somehow a weak light illumined him, the points on his legs and arms. The head appeared to be bent down. The light was on a patch of water, a dull gleam broken by scraps of brick. And 3. The man bent his head back and touched it on the high back of the chair, very close to her face. She bent her head over, the hair hanging. The man to his left hid his mouth with his hand. The floor was covered in plaster. On the wall there was a smudged strip of green about 2 feet broad, which looked damp. He touched it and smelled his finger. Their breath went over and over in the cold air. She pulled a mattress round to align with the wall and put her belongings on it. There were 2 loose shutters in one wall that led to a balcony. She opened them and found two men standing at the ledge. The younger one turned as she pushed the shutters and smiled slowly. The older man fidgeted, but then did not acknowledge her. She began to step forward, but withdrew her foot at the tremor it made. She opened the shutters, and a long crack widened. She stared at the man in alarm. The man swung round in annoyance, spoke at her roughly, and went quickly inside. She pushed at the shutters. The man brought his hands up from his sides and raised them in the air, then let them fall carefully. His face was a mask. She went inside again. He signalled that she must take her clothes off. When she had done that, he took her by the hand, opened the door once more, and led her out. There was a narrow corridor, lighted only by a small painted window at one end. 4. The rock had a deep-cut face. Some loose stones trickled down the split, making a thin line of dust drift up, fall without sound on the water. There were distinct patches of green. The wide stretch of water between was quiet. A great block of shadow cut the pool of sunshine. It seemed close and angular. It was higher than us. As the shelf of land turned to enclose the island, fragments of rock were pushed up in the shallows. It was fertile. Some of the fields had the colour of dust. The last spur was a long, regular abutment with sloping sides. It carried a road. A sign was pasted on a post. It said, "No entry." She took the edge. It was beveled. A splinter entered her hand. The road was above a steep field. There was a dark green crop with broad leaves that turned in the wind. She missed her footing in the rubble. A line of small trees followed the road, began to descend before the spur hid them. Then she saw a girl trying to ride a bicycle up the steep face. The wheels were turning round and threw dust out. The rubber was sliding off with a rough sound. She could see the trace where another had passed. The harbour was strewn with other lower islands. The rock was 5. Final one, poem. I sensed in the darkness it didn't matter. The hands keep moving in the old ways. Words and phrases closing round, like flies drowning in ink, miles from the desk on which the decree is written in seconds. In 100 ways, real and imagined, I was drowning without knowing. A vessel with no port to enter, no bridge to span the dark channel. Which fragments of the self are left when the sails are ripped and the decks smashed? These are mere keepsakes when the tides are far away. I remember the room like a dark lantern, apart from a thicket of distant lights that glow then vanish. Is this what it feels like to orbit a smaller version of the self? Feet caked with the dust of no roads, upper jaw in pain. Is this what pulls me back to earth? All stays and attachments, from the reddening fire to the longing to be kept out of harm's way. Perhaps this is the launch site. The room looks bigger on an empty stomach, and the soft, weightless layers of spring demand a forbidden dusting of ash. And the part of me that wants the desert, and the desert wind to smooth the way, begins to fade too fast to recover. We are all under the same roof, wings folded and next in line, forever.